It's time to take off your clothes, enjoy clothes-free living, and join us for Naked, Nudist, and Naturist.
Welcome to Naked, Nudist, and Naturist, the show that celebrates clothes-free living for all. I'm your host, Frank Stone.
And I'm your correspondent, Lisa Monroe, and I'll be reporting on all things within the naturist community. So it's time to get naked and join us.
And enjoy clothes-free living on Naked, Nudists, and Naturists. Welcome on in to Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, episode 11 today. Come on in. The water is fine, as I like to say, whether you like the shallow end, the deep end, or somewhere in the middle of the pool. It's all good. Just get your clothes off, join us, and we'll swim for the next hour or so. How about that? Well, we are glad that you are with us today for this episode 11. We give you a brand new show every Saturday morning. 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time is when it hits. And it hits to Spotify right away, and eventually it gets to Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts and Amazon Music. In the world of high tech, it takes a while to unravel and get to those other places. But for sure, you can find it on Spotify, 6 o'clock a.m. on Saturday mornings. And again, that's Eastern Time. And I noticed last week for episode 10, it did not hit Apple Podcasts until about 3 or 4 hours later. So I don't understand that world. It's out of our control. We merely submit it to Spotify, and Spotify takes over from there and branches it out, and the other groups accept it. But for sure, Spotify, 6 a.m. on Saturday mornings. We're glad that a lot of you tune in right away at 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. We get all the reports here, and it tells us when people tune in, how long they tune in, what state you're from, what country you're from. And so we get all the numbers, and we appreciate that. People looking forward to it every Saturday morning. Jump out of bed, fire it up. Naked, Nudist, and Naturist, guaranteed to be there. And it's also an hour show. Every single time, it's a 1 hour show. I have received a number of emails and inquiries on that. First of all, the production value that we do here. But also, why is it always 1 hour on the nose? Well, I'll give you a little inside baseball information here. Most people start off in the podcast world by starting off in the podcast world. That's the entry level now. It didn't used to be that way. That's a fairly new concept over the last 15 years or so, and really got big maybe within the last 10. And literally, as you know, anybody can wake up in the morning, drive to the store, buy a microphone, come back, record something, put it out there, and it's available for the world to hear just like that. Now, can you do that in terrestrial radio? Can you just walk into a studio today and say, here I am, hire me, put me on the air, and I'll get some information out there to the public right away? No, it doesn't work that way in terrestrial radio. But most people start off in the podcast world with doing podcasts. I was different. I got caught in the middle of that whole timeline thing. I actually started my career in terrestrial radio. And terrestrial radio is highly demanding, to say the least. It's the understatement of the year. You have to meet deadlines, sometimes right to the exact second. Like 8:12 and 37 seconds, Frank, you better be taking a commercial or you won't be here anymore. That kind of demanding, that kind of pressure. And so you learn about deadlines and you learn the importance of them. And that's why we do it here, because of my initial training. It wasn't a conscious decision. It's just that's how I was trained. I know a couple of former military guys. They're in their mid-40s to early 50s. Every morning they pop out of bed at 5 o'clock, and by 5:05 they're doing jumping jacks and push-ups and sit-ups and going for a 5-mile run. And I say, guys, you don't have to do that. You could kind of sleep in. They said, no, that's our training. It's how we've been trained since the beginning, and that's how we still do it. And I guess that's the answer here. That's how I was trained. That's how I learned. So I just continue on doing it. So you get a 1 hour show every Saturday. You can schedule your listening time in accordance with that. You know darn well it's going to be an hour. So if you have a half-hour drive, well, shoot, you're in. Listen to half on the way wherever you're going. Listen to the other half on the way back. A lot of people listen while they're cooking, I'm told. A lot of people listening while they're in their gardens or cutting their grass or at their pool or at the beach or driving around. We're just glad that you do. Well, on today's show, we will, of course, have our correspondent Lisa Monroe in. She'll be in just a few moments. We'll also have part one of my interview with Linda WEBER. If you're involved in naturism, you know who Linda WEBER is. Big name, huge name out there. She won't tell you that. She's a very humble person, but I'm telling you that. Big on Twitter, big in a lot of places, on the board of ANNR, the Western region. Works with B.E.A.C.H.E S, does a lot of advocacy for naturism and clothes-free living for all of the right reasons. Highly respected and admired here at the office/studio, and I know you, the listener, feel the same way. So part one today of my interview with Linda WEBER, who goes by the hashtag I am the face of naturism. How about that? Now, before we get to all of that, we do get a lot of correspondence here, and I have permission from some of our listeners to read what they wrote to me, and now I'll share it with you and see if this hits home with you. It's always good to know and good to hear other people's perspectives on naturism, what it means to them, what they've done, what they're going to do, etc. So here's a letter from a gentleman by the name of Alan. He's a Christian naturist. And Alan says, I want to commend you for putting out a fantastic podcast about the naturist lifestyle. As far back as I can remember, I preferred to be clothes-free. It just seemed normal to me. Like most families, I recall that once I reached about 5 years of age, my parents made sure that I was dressed. Once about age of 10, I asked my mom if I could remain naked after my shower to watch TV, and she said yes. It was the one and only time I did, I think because my older sister wasn't comfortable with it. At about 12, a friend and I were playing on a beach, and we swam around to a cove, and at the cove there were two girls and a guy, seemed to be in their early 20s, laying out nude, just chatting. My friend and I decided to join them, and we took off our suits. We spent the day playing naked in the cove. For the rest of the summer, we went back to the cove and played naked. Every chance I got at home alone, I'd get naked as a kid. In high school and college, I'd join in with the occasional group skinny dip. Fast forward, married with a family, and I'm blessed that we have a body-positive home, allowing the kids to grow up without shame of their bodies. We're not full-time nudists, though I wish we were. Changing, walking to the shower, swimming in the pool, it's okay to be clothes-free. Occasional cooking, too. I randomly find myself second-guessing the normalcy of a naturist lifestyle. Then I'll stumble onto something like your podcast that reinforces what I know deep down to be true. Thank you so much for creating it. It's inspirational. And we thank Alan, the Christian naturist, for that very kind letter. And we hear this a lot. It's a common story. You feel like you should be naked when you're a kid. It just seems normal. At some point, your mom and dad are both say, hey, let's get some clothes on there, pal. And you never really are told why, other than you have to do it. It's what society says. It's what mom and dad say to do, so you do it. And then somewhere down the road, you discover, hey, clothes off feels a lot better, so I'm going to do it. So hats off to Alan. Here's a letter from Peter. He's over in England. He said, hi, I just found the podcast at episode 8 and wanted to drop you a line before I've even finished listening. Enjoying the show and would have shared being naked with you, except I was walking the dog at the time. Now I've been to the website so I can pick up on the earlier episodes I've missed. Keep up the good work. And that's from Peter in England. And Peter, we thank you as well. Here's a letter from a gentleman who did not want me to use his name or email address, but he is from the United States, the eastern half of the U.S. That's as close as I want to get to identifying who this gentleman is. But he says, Frank and Lisa, you guys are wonderful to listen to! Exclamation point. Your approach is so professional and normalizing to this segment. I'm from blank blank area and work for myself and by myself most of the time. You have just been added to my list of favorite podcasts to listen to. I was raised in a world where you keep everything covered up and under the rug. I was even chastised by my younger brother once to put some clothes on after I had just gotten out of the shower and I was just hanging out in my own room. This mindset was so foreign to me. However, I have always been a curious guy and loved to go on walkabouts in the woods, As I became of age 14 to 16 ish, I started wanting to be nude in nature. I was interested in an American Indian history and way of life, and I thought if they walked around half dressed, why couldn't I? I have always had the idea that this was wrong, but I listened to yours and the other podcasts on this subject, and I've come into the reality that this is perfectly natural and okay to do in the proper settings. So, in the past couple of years, I've been going out to the local lake streams and more isolated areas and skinny dipping or paddling my paddleboard as nude as possible. I love it. It is like a healing, recharging, grounding practice that I have to have. Well, how about that? That says it all. It's like a healing, recharging, grounding practice that he has to have. And it does so much for you mind, body, soul. It's all there. So we thank that gentleman from the eastern half of the United States for his kind email. And I have one more to read to you today. We'll get more on episode 12 next week. This is from Mark, and Mark says, "Hey, Lisa and Frank, hello from France, and congrats on the podcast that I listen to on my way to work every week. I'm a passionate naturist like you are, and if you ask, yes, I am clothes-free as I write this message, having a nice cup of coffee. I love naturism and do as many activities as possible entirely naked. Nude is my way to be and live. I created my blog, Nude and Happy, and you can find it, nudeandhappy.com, back in 2015 to share my passion for nudism and why naturism is so incredible. Since then, I've had more than 1 million visitors and hope to have helped people to at least try naturism. I recently opened a Substack, and you can find that at nudeandhappy.substack.com, where I publish my blog articles and naturist short stories for paid subscribers. I've also published 5 books about nudism and naturism, available in paperback in Kindle format. As you can see, nude, nudism, and naturism are my passions in life, and I'm so glad I found your show and people as passionate as I am for clothes-free living. Keep up the great work you guys are doing. We need more voices to share our incredible lifestyle." And again, that's from Mark, and you can check him out at those sites that I mentioned above. It's great to hear these stories from our listeners and other people. To me and to you, naturism is what it's all about. Clothes-free living for all of the right reasons. We don't jump out of bushes. We don't open raincoats in the middle of the street. None of that. And if you're a naturist, a nudist, you know exactly what I mean. You just want your clothes off, barrier-free. It does something to you beyond the physical feeling. It's an emotional and a mental state that can't be described until you do it. So we're glad that you are doing it, and we thank you for being with us today on Naked, Nudist, and Naturist, episode 11. Brand new show every Saturday morning, drops 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. Well, as you can tell by the music that's sneaking up on me, it's time to bring in our weekly correspondent, Lisa Monroe. So let's go out to our correspondent, Lisa Monroe. Good morning, Lisa. How are you?
Good morning, Frank. I'm doing terrific this morning.
Yeah, I can see that, and I can also see you're living the clothes-free life to the max.
That I
Congratulations.
am.
Yeah.
That I am. The only way to go.
Other than going to a store or the post office or the police station to file a report, when's the last time you had clothes on?
Let's
Weeks,
see.
months,
Yesterday
years?
sometime.
Yesterday?
Yeah.
Well, there better be a good reason for this.
Well, no, I ran a couple of errands and then came home and off the clothes came, and I haven't been anywhere since.
Well, that's okay. All right, that's what I meant, other than when you have to. All right, very good. Well, we want to talk about mandatory nude swimming for males. Used to go on all of the time in schools, actual public schools and colleges, and then swim teams practiced in the nude as well. Now, I missed a lot of that, although I did have some experiences with the Boys Clubs of America, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. But what do you know about that? It was actually mandatory. They said, boys wear suits. The suits will pick up germs and bacteria, and it'll mess up the pool filter system. Yet on the other side of the pool, we had girls with suits much bigger than the boys wore, and no problem with bacteria apparently with those. So it made no sense. But what's your recollection from what you've heard, or what's your knowledge of all this?
Well, I didn't have any of that in schools where I was, and I also didn't have a brother, so I wasn't exposed to a lot of what guys were doing at that point in time during school. But I did. You remember? I think I told you all about the experience I had as a 15-year-old going to the swimming hole,
Oh yeah.
and those guys tripped off when they went and jumped in the pond to
Mhm,
swim.
mhm,
And so it was kind of, for a 15-year-old, we're like, whoa, wait a minute, what's going on here? Because I'd never been exposed to that. But
mhm,
finding out later, apparently the father had always swam naked in
mhm,
school and, anywhere they gone. And so his sons just did the same thing. They didn't think anything about it, whether they were doing it in public at that point in time or not. I don't know. That was probably about the only experience like that that I've had. Although I do think my dad might have
yeah.
been at the YMCA. So I think maybe he may have done the same thing.
Yeah, and at the time that he went, I'm pretty sure there was nude swimming. It wasn't a mixed deal yet. I think a lot of the Ys now are mixed, right? Men and women, boys and
Yeah,
girls. Or,
there was
yeah,
a YWCA,
yeah.
and my mother sort of toyed with going there, but she ended up not doing it. But the YMCA at that time, I remember asking my dad when I was little, "Can I go?"
Hmm.
And I was like, "No, no girls allowed." And now I think I may know why.
Yeah, it was probably just a continuation of what he had experienced as a kid and also in school and high school and probably college as well. Men went swimming, whether it was outside or inside, and the clothes came off. You didn't wear a suit. It just wasn't done back then. And I always thought, because I had the experience with the boys' club, and I've told you this before, but our listeners don't
Mhm.
really know the backstory. My cousin and I showed up, and we showed up in our suits and walked in the pool and immediately got yelled at and cussed out by the guy in charge of the pool. He was probably, I don't know, 40, 45, 50, and we were kids, so we were scared. And he
Sure.
used every word in the book and said, can't you blankety blanks read? And there were signs all over, no swimsuits allowed. And, we had seen it, but it didn't really mean anything to us. Like, well, we're just going to go swimming, and you put a suit on to go swimming, at least indoors. And no, it was mandatory. You could not have a suit on. He said, either go get your suits off or get out of here. Either way, you're not coming in here. And he wasn't anywhere near that nice when he explained it to us.
I bet not.
And loud with a bunch of words that I didn't use at that age for sure. And so we went, in the locker room, took our suits off, and came out and swam. There are lots of guys of various ages swimming nude. And I, even at that age, and I was fairly young, I'm like 10, 11, 12 at the most. I remember thinking, even at that age, I'll bet this is a way to control us because boys and men aren't going to act like idiots if they're naked. You very seldom see people in Walmart hitting on women who are naked. They're clothed. It's the clothed men that are dangerous, and the naked ones are a little more insecure, so they're a little more humble. What do you think about that? That's just my own opinion, but what do you think?
I think there's some validity to that because I think men dress. There's a sense of power that comes with that, and and a sense of being stronger and having a superiority that they don't or shouldn't have over anyone. And then when you take that facade away, you take the suit away, or you take the speedo away, or whatever you take away, that that's just who they are, and then it's suddenly they have to deal with that personality, so they're less likely to be as aggressive or
Mhm.
as obnoxious or whatever
Yeah.
that men can be sometimes, just as women can be too. Let me just say that.
Yeah. Now, we had a swimming pool at my high school. I don't think you did not, right? At your high school, you didn't
No,
have a pool?
no.
Right. So we had one, and I do know because I knew guys on the team. I was not on the swimming team, but they practiced in the nude. That was just normal. I think it had gone on for a long time before mandatory nude swimming in gym classes was taken out. But that tradition continued. It was after school, and they just showed up nude and practiced. And I never went in there to see them. Again, I wasn't on the team. I wasn't affiliated with the team, but I knew guys who were, and they told me, and the doors were always unlocked so people could go in and watch. They could actually watch the practices. They did put on, I'll call them swimsuits for lack of a better term, when they had a swimming meet. You might as well just have had nothing on because the material was so little. But that's my thinking on it. It was mandatory nude swimming to keep the guys under control, but also, I've never been in the military either, but I'm told when you get your physical in the military, if you're a guy, I don't know about the women, but it's all done in the nude. And it's not like if you and I go to the doctor for a physical, it's probably one on one, maybe an assistant in the room. Oh, no, there might be 50, 100, 500 guys in the same room, all naked with doctors and nurses all over the place. And again, I think it was to keep people under control. Like, okay, if you're naked, you're not going to be hiding any weapons for sure, and you're probably
Exactly.
not going to act like a fool.
You get to a point where everyone's the same. It's back to what naturists believe, that once those clothes are off, everyone's the same, and so you're equal in the eyes of the army or navy or whatever that you're going into, just like you would be, at a beach.
Yeah, and there is the fun side to it also. I don't want people to get the impression, oh shoot, I had to show up and take my suit off and swim naked. Oh no, we enjoyed every second of it. And I'm guessing the guys did too at your swimming hole, right?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think that to them it was just so natural. It was just oh, let's go swimming. Off the suits came in, they jumped in, came out, dried off, put the suits or shorts back on, and the other girls who were with us, the sister and her friends, they were sort of, it didn't mean anything at all to them.
Right,
And but they had a pool at their high school. Ours hadn't been built yet because our high school
right.
was younger. And I think they also swam naked there in the for the
Yeah,
swim meets, or at least practice naked. So I
yeah.
think it was just it was just a thing that was done, and no one thought of anything about it. It was not anything that was chastised or seemed to be a problem to anyone.
No, not at all. And we had at the boys' club, we had swim meets as well, and they were not really high level. You're not talking about Olympic swimmers. They're just talking about a bunch of kids trying to get the hang of swimming. And we were naked for the swim meets there, and there were moms and sisters and aunts and grandmas in the audience. It was normal back then. And now I just heard a story. It's going to be coming up on a future show, probably in 2024, somewhere. I forgot where this was, but they've actually eliminated being naked in a locker room at a gym. So you go to work out and you shower, you better find a way to have some clothes on in the shower and on your way to and from the shower, because you can't be naked in the locker room. How in the world over 50 years or so do we go from naked in front of a crowd swimming at a meet to you better keep your clothes on in the locker room while you shower?
Oh, I have no answer to that whatsoever, because most of locker rooms that I've been in, health clubs and stuff,
Hmm.
it's humid and it's nasty and it's hard, to get dressed in that to come out of the no, that's
Yeah.
ridiculous. But if things are getting ridiculous now,
Well, yeah,
there's,
that's
I
part of
mean,
it.
we're regressing in a lot of ways. But
Yeah.
one thing I do want to say is when I was in college, a friend of mine knew someone on the swim team,
Hmm.
and the swim practice was always closed. And I found out later why. Because they opened swim practice for the public to come in and watch the swim team, because my college had a good swim team, and they were in suits. But apparently, I found out they did not practice in suits, so they only put on clothes because the public was there. So I think even then, it's not been all that long. It's been a while, but not
Yeah.
that long since
Yeah.
college. Yeah, maybe a while longer than I'd like to admit, but
Yeah.
it was still going on, and it may still be going on in a lot of places where there are closed environments like that.
Yeah. Well, to close up here, I have a notice from the Minneapolis Tribune in 1950. They had a little ad in there, and it says, Learn to Swim at the YMCA. That's the title of the article. And during the month of May, the particular YMCA will sponsor a Learn to Swim campaign for boys in third through sixth grade. Okay, great. They talk about the various swimming strokes they'll learn and all that good stuff. The swimming campaign will last for 4 hours, and the Y will charge a registration fee of 35 cents. I thought that was kind of funny.
Wow.
Class will begin at 1:45. Each boy must provide his own towel. Boys will not need swimming suits for any of the sessions, as wearing them is prohibited by the YMCA. And then at the last paragraph, families may attend the final swim session to watch the boys that had passed the standardized test to receive their YMCA certificates in the nude. Totally normal and accepted, and I think a happier society overall. And now we're this, oh gosh, you better even cover up your forearms and face. How dare you?
it just amazes me that we are at a point now where those things are considered taboo. We're not supposed to look. We're not supposed to be naked in front of each other. This is ridiculous. And I think for girls, it's healthy.
Yep. Yeah. Totally normal. And that's why we're basically one of the reasons we're doing this show is to promote naturism, clothes free living for all, and living the good life. It's been Lisa Monroe, our weekly correspondent. Lisa, have a great week. You will stay clothes free until we speak again, right?
Certainly will if you will.
That was not a command. That was basically a question. Okay.
Good.
All right. Lisa Monroe, have a good week. We'll see you next time.
Okay, Frank. Take care, and you too.
All right. Thank you. Our weekly correspondent, Lisa Monroe, and it's a good thing that I corrected myself or made myself clear there. I was not commanding her to be naked. It was merely a suggestion. Lisa's a very strong, independent woman, and the last thing you can do is command her to do anything unless you want your day to end poorly. Just putting it out there. You don't mess with Lisa. A very strong, independent woman. That's why we like her so much at this studio. Just a great human being to be around. And yeah, she enjoys the clothes-free living life as well. Lisa Monroe, we thank her, and she'll be back with us on next week's show. You're listening to Naked, Nudist, and Naturist, episode 11 today. We give you a brand new show every Saturday morning. How about that? We drop it at 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time on Spotify right away, and then eventually it gets to the other formats as well. We appreciate you being with us. We appreciate you firing up our show every single week. Well, let's get to my interview now, and with the terrific Linda Weber. I am the face of naturism, and she is out there everywhere on various platforms. We found her on Twitter. She's all over the place. She posts at least once a day, if not multiple times, reposts other people's information, comments, gives likes, highly visible, highly involved in promoting clothes-free living / naturism / nudism / just being naked, enjoying your best life clothes-free for all of the right reasons. So let's get to it right now. My interview with the terrific Linda Weber. So let's head out to California. We're going to talk to the lady who is the face of naturism. That's right, I am the face of naturism. She is out there promoting naturism everywhere, clothes-free living for all of the right reasons. Her resume would take about an hour to go through the whole thing, and then you wouldn't hear from her, so I won't mention everything, but she is on one of the boards for ANNR West out in California. Also recently got a fairly significant award, she and her husband both. We'll talk about that. But let's bring her to the show. I talk about naturism, how she found her way into it, and all that she's doing to promote the lifestyle, not only with everybody, but more specifically with women. From California, Linda Weber. Good morning, Linda. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Frank.
Good to have you with us. Now, you're also known on social media as True Blue Nude. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. So people can find you everywhere. Now, I know you're on Twitter because that's how you and I met, but where else are you if people want to find you?
I'm on MeWe, Discord, Reddit, Naturist Hub, and a few other assorted ones.
Okay. But if they type in True Blue Nude, probably everything will come up, right?
They should find me, yes.
All right. Now, I heard a story, not really a story about you. It's actually a story that you've told before because we do our research around here. You, at some point, I think when you were still a teenager, I think I heard the age 14, but I could be wrong on that. You decided that's enough of this clothes nonsense. I'm going naked, like 25 hours a day, 8 days a week kind of thing. Your parents weren't totally pleased, but it sounds like they didn't stop you. Maybe just take us through that story, because that sounds like the beginning stages of when you found naturism and what it can do for you.
Yes, I learned fairly early about clothes-free living, and it wasn't really a movement. It was just that I just didn't like clothes. And I would come home and I just didn't feel comfortable. I think they use them as a judgment tool. You know, you're going through school and everybody has to have the latest fashion, and I wasn't really part of that. I just didn't subscribe to that. And you could see it was used as a judgment tool. Who has the best clothes? That means they're the best people, the best personalities, and that just wasn't true. And so I was coming home and I'd sleep in the nude. And then I started coming home, and the minute the door closed, I
Yeah.
started taking my clothes off. Of course, that was fairly shocking to my parents, but they knew that it wasn't any kind of, a movement. I wasn't rebellious. I was just doing it because I just didn't like clothes.
Mhm.
And the one great thing that came out of it is because I was nude, I could, when my body was changing, I had more of an awareness of it. Because when you're in your teens, what's the first thing you do is you ask your friends. You don't want to ask your parents.
Right.
And of course, if they don't know the story, they make up something and it could be horrible. But
True.
I just was more aware of my body, and I felt good. I just don't like, and to this day, I always say I'm nude 25/8 because I just don't like clothes.
That's right. I sent you a text or a message or email, whatever. I've used the expression 25/8 forever. Never heard anybody else use it until you in a recent interview. So we were just meant to be on this platform interviewing you, I think.
Oh, absolutely. When I heard that you do that, I thought, hey, this is great. A kindred soul.
That's right. All right. So this is to help our listeners now. So at whatever age, your teenage years, you decided I'm going to be naked all the time. Now your parents, you kind of said they weren't totally in favor of it, but they didn't stop you. So you naked all the time, like even at dinner or watching TV. Just take us through that.
Mostly, yeah. Once I got off, home from school, it was just like, okay, the shackles can come off. And like I said, at first it was a little shocking, and they kind of got used to it. Of course, at the beginning, my sisters are like, "Linda's nude again," but it was I'm in the house. I'm not running down the street, so I'm in the
Right.
house, and it just was just a natural part of thing. And, here comes Linda again. She's nude, and like I said, it wasn't a rebellious thing. I wasn't trying to prove a point or anything. So I think they saw through what it was for me.
Yeah, and very much the same. I tell people I was born naked and just never got around to getting dressed ever. Unless I actually have to, and of course, there've been many times we have to in our society. But I was always nude in the house as well. And older sister, and she would sometimes, if she had friends over, could you please put something on? It's like, well, why? Why would I do that? And my parents had no problem with that. And to me, that's the way it is. Just clothes free living for all of the right reasons. You mentioned the word shackles. Those go away, the barriers go away, and you're just living life as yourself, aren't you?
It's just a freeing feeling,
Yeah.
and once, people actually embrace it, but that's the hardest part is saying, okay, once you take your clothes off, that's the best you're ever going to feel, because that's just such a concept that we don't actually really promote in the world. I mean, nudists and naturists do, but it's not something that seems to go over well with the general public.
Sadly true, and we're working on that. And you're doing a lot in that regard to make it normal, which, by the way, it is, because that's how we were born. And some people like to go back into the Bible, hundreds of thousands of years ago. They didn't wear clothes back then. They didn't have a Target and a Walmart to go buy their clothes, or Amazon. They couldn't order anything. And so they walked around naked. That was just normal. And then when they started to branch out of the Middle East toward colder climates, well, it got kind of chilly. So they made robes, and that's all they wore. And sometimes you'll read in the Bible, prophet so and so showed up, removed his robe, and began to preach. Now, to the average person off the street, okay, he just wanted to be comfortable. No, no, he was naked under the robe. They just left that little word out in the Bible. But even the prophets of the word of God preached while they had no clothes on. So it is normal. And that's what you're trying to promote, right? Not some weird off the cuff thing. Hey, let's try this. You're promoting naturism because it's totally appropriate and normal, right?
Absolutely. And there's so many benefits. There's mental benefits. There's also, the whole shame, getting over the shame of our bodies. And I think that's what a lot of the businesses promote. If you don't look good, you're not going to be, the most desirable person, or you're not going to get that job or that mate. And so there's this whole conspiracy to keep our clothes on because, first of all, that's not natural to be nude. And second of all, we've got, fashion, beauty, the medical industry, they all want to keep us clothed, and you can't breathe. I mean, literally your skin doesn't breathe. So you can imagine what it does for the rest of you.
Yeah, yeah, very much so. I heard you say on an interview, I think it's when you interviewed Donna Price, You talked about, you don't wear makeup at all unless you really have to, or like some big event like a wedding reception or something, and you certainly don't wear clothes at all, uh, because the whole media thing, media and commerce and everything else. There's a lot of money, billions of dollars in fashion and makeup and everything else. So of course they don't want to promote naturism. That would destroy their businesses, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, there's whole industries that would collapse. If all I think what we could do is if we could all get together and do like towels or sandals or, sunglasses, because really, when you think about it, it's the media that keeps perpetuating this, false narrative that we have to be perfect. And look what our role models are. There are these girls and these ladies and even young kids that have been groomed and fashioned and all made up, and a lot of it is surgery. So there's this artificial perfection that they want us to attain that nobody can, not naturally. And when you look at these people, they don't look like the rest of us. So why are they holding up this fraction of a percent as the perfection?
Yeah, no, exactly right. I dealt with some people some years ago, maybe 15 years ago. They were about 25 years old or so, and they went home from work one day, came back the next day, and just had a different look about them. I couldn't quite figure it out. They just had a different look. And I finally asked one of them, is a woman, I said, "Did you change your hair? I can't figure it out. I'm not an expert. Did you change your hair or something?" And she said, "No, I had a couple of things touched up." And that's when it hit me. Age 25, you're touching things up at a medical office. And that's when I realized we're in far deeper trouble than we thought, aren't we?
It's really sad because that's what they promote. They want that
Yeah.
surgery because we are supposed to look, quote, younger.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to look younger. I want to look my age. I want to age and, hopefully gracefully, but it's inevitable and we all are going to age. So this whole media hype about, we have to look good and have the nips and tucks. And you can tell the people that actually, they're 80, but they look 40. Is that what we really want? Is that what we're promoting? It just is
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah, and not to mention the levels of stress. Every day you look in the mirror. Oh boy, I got to call Doctor So and So. We got to do this. I got to buy this pair of jeans. Oh boy, I need money to buy this shirt. And before you know it, you're ripping your hair out over. I'll just call it something. I don't want to use the word stupid, but something that maybe isn't too bright. And if we went to naturism, that's not even a concern, is it?
Absolutely. I mean, I keep saying it would solve so many problems, and it's just like I said, it's just not the fashion. It's the whole mental, how we look at it. Because if you're looking in a mirror and you're a young girl and you're looking and you're thinking how imperfections and all the things that are wrong with you, that's what's going to keep in your mind, and you're going to compare yourself to other women, and you're never going to be perfect. That's just a fact because it's just we're all different. If we can embrace our bodies, can you imagine the mental relief it would be when the young girls don't open a magazine and say, oh my gosh, I don't look like that, so I need to diet or do something even more horrible to themselves. It
Mhm.
would just be this shift of, hey, I look pretty good, and if you don't like it, then that's your problem.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's when they had all that anorexia and bulimia nonsense going on, and I dealt with a number of girls years ago. You mentioned the whole clothing thing. If you didn't have the exact pair of jeans that the cool kids wore, you were an outsider. And sometimes they would even, hit each other, like just get away from us, and they'd smack them in the face, like you're not good enough to be with us, simply because they didn't have a blasted particular pair of jeans. So makes no sense. And I'm glad you're doing this. And you're not just the average person off the street who pontificates about naturism. You're actually heavily involved. And I want to bring this up right now so we don't wait till the end. You recently, you and your husband recently received a very significant award from AANR. If you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about that, what it is, and how it came to be, and what happened.
Oh, it's a very it's an honor to have received the Family of the Year
Yeah.
from the American Association for Nude Recreation, along with some other very deserving people. So it's just such an honor because there's over 30,000 members of American Association for Nude Recreation, and the
Mhm.
fact that my husband and I were selected along with some other folks that won some great awards. It's just I can't tell you. I get tongue tied over it because it still hasn't sunk in, and it just really highlights that if you do the work, you will be recognized. And I didn't. I had no idea that this was even coming. I didn't even know we were even nominated.
And sometimes that's the best way. Again, no stress. You're just sitting at home. You get a phone call or an email and say, "Whoa, honey, we won."
Yeah, that's
So,
basically how it happened. I
yeah,
said, they said, "Congratulations." And I said, "Oh, what did I win?" I don't remember, entering the lottery or anything, but um, it just, like I said, it just really is still kind of sinking in because it is such an honor to be recognized. And it's, through an organization that I really love. And when I do something, I do 100% or more of it. So I've jumped in with both feet. And so to be recognized by ANNR is just absolutely fabulous.
yeah. I've always been the same way. Not in relation to Anna. I've not been involved with them yet. But if I'm going to do something, well, first of all, if something has to get done, why shouldn't it be me? Why should I just sit back while somebody else does all the heavy lifting? I probably ought to be in there helping or doing it, and then you do it to the max. Why give it a half effort or three quarters? Either do it all the way or just stay home. And that's exactly what you just said you do, isn't it?
Absolutely. In fact, that's how I actually got involved with AANR. Is I was actually at a meeting and I saw some of the things I didn't really like, and I was a little worried. And I thought, I could sit back and not do anything and complain like everybody else does, or I could try to see if there's something I can do. If I can, help out, and if I do something great, that's great. And if I don't, I can say that I tried. And so that's why I got on the board.
Yeah, that's great. And I want to get into that, how you discovered Anna and the nude cruise and all that. But before we do, I want to play a video. Now, our listeners, it's audio only, so only hear this. But this is a video that's on your Twitter page that I found. And I got the chills when I heard you speak because I could tell you were speaking from the heart and deep within your soul about naturism. Now, before we listen to it, can you tell our listeners what this is about and what it meant to you to be able to do this?
Well, the credit goes to Hector Martinez because he found me on Twitter and he realized, kinds of the things that I was trying to promote. And he said, I'm doing videos, and he had video challenges. And at first I told him, I just don't think I could do that, Hector.
Yeah,
But he
yeah,
was so welcoming, just like yourself, and said, you can do it. It's, no pressure. So I actually did two videos for him,
yeah.
but the one is talking about how body, your body, and the shame, and how it seems to go away if when you're a naturist. And the other one was more just talking about what I did. So the pond one came after a previous one where I'm in a little blue pareo that Hector had. It's kind of like you're naturist and proud, let's talk about it. So
Okay. Well, let's give it a listen right now. It's Linda Weber talking about naturism.
Hi, I'm Linda Weber, also known as True Blue Nude. I've been a naturist since my teen, even though it's not a popular concept with my parents. I always felt clothes covered my true nature and that they were used as a judgment tool. I'm a proud member of British Naturism, the INF through the Irish Naturist Association, the Nature Society, and the American Association for Nude Recreation, where I was recently elected to the board of directors for the Western region. I am also co-chair for Women in Nude Recreation, which focuses on introducing women to the benefits of naturism. Talking about naturism to non-naturists can be daunting, but we can all play a part in it. I am launching a program using hashtag I in the face of naturism to show that naturists are just like everyone else, but we enjoy non-sexual, family-oriented, wholesome nudity. We shop at the same stores, our kids go to the same schools, we work alongside them and enjoy the same things they do, only we embrace a nudist philosophy to life. It's up to each one of us to show how wonderful and embracing this philosophy is, as well as the benefit. We need to counter the negative connotations and misconceptions people have surrounding nudity. Please join me in showing that each one of us can proudly say, I am the face of naturism by using the hashtag #NudePost. Thank you.
Yeah, what a magnificent video. And just so our listeners know, hopefully they'll check it out and we'll give all that information how they can find it. But first of all, you're literally standing there naked. But beyond the physical nakedness, I could feel and I think I could even see, if that's possible, your soul was bare as well. That to me is the essence and the true joy of naturism, isn't it?
it is, and it's one of those things that you try to explain it to someone, and I don't think they just get it until you can get them actually to the point of trying it. And once they do, the first thing they usually say is, "Why didn't I do this sooner?" But
Yeah.
it's getting them to that point that's the rub.
Yeah, that's true. And you're right. Everybody I've ever dealt with, once they get there, it's like, you're right. Should have done this 150 years ago. I'm not going to waste the next 150. We're going to go clothes free all the time. And they do. And so, remarkable job on that. Now, you and your husband, as I recall from 2017, you went on your first nude cruise. For those who don't know about this or haven't heard or looked into it, what is a nude cruise? Basically, everybody's naked, right? Is that how it works?
That was that was so exciting. My husband was on the internet and he's always looking for travel things because we're extensive travelers.
Yeah.
And he said, they've got a cruise where everybody's nude. And I said, you're kidding. And it was a Bare Necessities cruise.
Yeah.
And I was still basically a home nudist. I didn't even know about resorts or anything. I just knew about my local unofficial nude beach. So I thought, wow, this is going to be interesting with, 2,000 other, nude folks. And wow, I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked.
Yeah.
It was so great. I always joke about it, that I walked on, I went, this is the land of my people. Because I was not socially nude in a big event like that. It was just, a few people at the beach. So this was really eye-opening. And it was like, wow, this is so great to see everybody there. And everybody's happy. Nobody's got their clothes on. And, we all just feel like it's normal. So it was just fabulous.
Yeah, I've not been on one of those. It is on my, I don't even want to say bucket list because bucket list is things you might get to someday. I want to get to this. So whatever the next level above bucket list is, I want to do that for sure. So all of the guests are certainly nude, but not necessarily the staff, or do I have that wrong?
No, the staff must remain clothed, and they are alerted that this is going to be a specialty cruise. And the one thing that I thought was absolutely amazing is every one of those crew members looked me in the eye. They didn't do the once over, the up and down. They
Yeah.
looked us in the eye, and that had to have been extremely difficult for them, but they were very respectful. And and they said this is sometimes one of the cruises that they really look forward to because everybody is so happy.
Yeah, yeah. That we could go on forever just about that one aspect alone. I've never been to a naturist resort or naturist beach and seen anybody get ticked off or mad. I have seen everybody welcoming and smiling and laughing and say, "Hey, come on over here. You want a bag of chips or an iced tea? We have some extras in our cooler," and they don't even know me. You don't get that on a textile beach very often, do you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, if somebody walks up to you on a textile beach, you're really, really nervous, wondering what they want. But
Yeah,
if you see, nude people, they're all happy and welcoming, and it's a whole different environment. And
yeah.
it's like I said, it's just one of those friendly things that you just want to project and tell everybody about.
Yeah, and that's why I'm glad you're doing this. You're putting it out there for the right reasons. Now, you started this in 2017, so you went 17, 18, and then in 2019, you ended up meeting some AANR board members, and that kind of changed your path as well. Maybe tell us about that.
Yeah, I was actually sat at a table with some of the directors, and I thought, wow, if that wasn't, fortuitous.
There
And,
you go.
I had seen the AANR table, and I kept saying, I'm already a nudist. What can you teach me? And that was so short sighted. I had no idea. And so I joined the organization and I saw the list of all the clubs, the resorts, and the beaches, and I was shocked because I had no idea they even existed. And one of the things that was really exciting is I started out, like I said, on a beach, Bates Beach, decades ago. And the thing is it was unofficial and you could go on there, but then they started getting the gawkers and people start getting ticketed. And that
Yeah,
was when I realized, we can't do that. And so I basically stopped and became a home nudist
yeah.
for the rest of the time until I went on the nude boat.
Now, the Bates Beach thing, it legal to be nude, or it was never legal, and they decided to crack down.
It was never, legally recognized, but it
Okay.
was always one of those things that if you went farther enough down the beach, it was okay because you really had to walk a long way if you wanted to see nude people.
Mhm.
But then, because it was unofficial, people could complain, oh, there's nude people on the beach. And so, the ticketing started, but one of what we call a non-landed, meaning a non-resort group, Friends of Beach Beach and the Southern California Naturist Association, worked with the city council for Carpinteria and said, this is what we want to do. We'll be good stewards of the beach and, really work with them. And so now the Parks Department, which is over that section, they said, that's fine as long as you stay in that section of the beach. We won't hassle you or ticket you or anything. So it's fabulous to get that option back.
Okay, well, good. And that's not too far away from where you live, right? You can make it there reasonably soon.
Yes, which is what I love.
Yeah, absolutely. We have I'm probably close to an hour and a half away from the closest actual designated nude beach. But I am on the beach, and the coast of Florida is a very long distance, not as long as California, and you can find isolated areas. So we can go down there and be nude and frolic around and have a good time. Now, if we wander over to where the textile people are, I'm sure there'd be instant issues. So we always find a way without being inappropriate, not in anybody's face. They don't even know what I'm doing down there. Just some guy took his chair and went 3 miles down. Oh well, who cares? And that's how we find ways to enjoy the lifestyle, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. And the one thing that I always bring up is I don't do ambush nudity. I'm not going to go out in the middle of all these, folks that are dressed and plop my chair down and be nude because I don't think that is the way that you do it. I think some people think that that's a great way to just normalize naturism, but I want to be respectful. That I don't want that to be their first view and they don't know what's going on. They don't know the context. So I stick to the nude beach and do other things to normalize naturism.
That's not even, at least to me, that's not even true naturism. That's more like exhibitionism, maybe streaking, that kind of thing, which can be fun in and of its own right. If people want to do that, that's fine. But it's not really naturism, is it?
No, and that's the one thing that when people first ask me about it is it comes up is well, is it's full of sex and you people just want people to see your body and things like that, and it's not, and it's this whole education of what it is as well as what it isn't.
Yeah, it's very well said. Now you're all over social media, and I'll just put it out there and hope I'm not being inappropriate. I don't think I am, but there are lots of photos of you out there with no clothes on whatsoever. You're just out there. Linda Weber, here she is, no clothes anywhere within the photo. Which, by the way, your husband takes all those photos, as I understand.
Yes.
However, having said all that, people probably think you're this flamboyant, over the top diva. Look at me, but you're not. You're actually somewhat of an introvert, aren't you?
I'm an absolute introvert, and my husband is even worse than I am.
Yeah, I
So
thought so. Yeah.
yeah, the whole idea of getting onto social media was scary to me. I wanted to lead women, and I wanted to find an avenue, and it took me about a week going back and forth with my husband. Should I do it? Should I not? I was looking on Twitter, and I thought, well, I don't know if I could do it. But then I thought, if I don't show them the beauty of it and how wonderful it is, why would they want to look into it? Why would they want to even follow me if I'm
Yeah.
not walking the talk?
Yeah.
And so I do it because I know that women need leaders. They need to see other people. They need to see themselves out there. And by doing it, they can say, well, if she did it, then I can do it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And you have done it, and I know a lot of people are following you, and a lot of people have tried it because you've led the way. So great work in that regard, and a couple more things on that in a few moments. But I do want to get into this whole ANNR thing again. So you met these people on the boat in 2019. You looked into it, and son of a gun, within a year or so, Linda Weber's on the board of ANNR out west, right?
It happened pretty quickly. I did sign up, and the people that I sat with at dinner were actually board members, and so of course they were talking about board service, and I actually started getting involved more before I actually was an official board member. I sat at all the meetings, and I came up with some ideas about things that we could do. So I was involved right away. I sat in on that, and I said, okay. I am willing to be a part of this and willing to be a leader.
And now you're on your second term, is that correct?
I'm on my second term, yes.
And how long is the term? Couple years, 2-3 years?
They're 2 years, and so you can do two-year consecutive terms, and then we have term limits, and that's to get other people involved. I mean, it's great to have dedicated people, but we want to get we always want to be fresh, have some fresh eyes, and so we do have term limits.
Yeah, and that makes sense, especially in an organization like that. You want more people involved, not just a select few, because then other people feel closed out, right?
Well, and people have all these different ideas, and what's great is we installed 2 new directors, and they came up with some great ideas right off the bat. And so it's like, sometimes you think, okay, we're making the right decisions, but then you get fresh eyes, and you get the information from your members, what they want to see, and you realize that's what needs to be our focus. We work for them, and so it's always great to get that input.
Now, I came across a site not too long ago, and it might have even been from your Twitter site, got me there. I don't remember how I found it, called Naturist Hub. And I know you're very involved in it. I think you were one of the founders of it. And somebody recently wrote to me and said they had sent my name in and the show's name in for a possible membership. And I haven't been contacted. I'm not sure how that works. I haven't had a chance to look into it since I got that email. But if you don't mind, just tell our listeners, what is Naturist Hub? What's it all about?
The Naturist Hub is a social media platform that was started with the Naked Wanderers, Nick and Linz,
Yeah.
and George Oberly and myself. And it was a place actually for nudists and naturists to meet and be away from some of the other social media platforms. Because in the other ones, it's open and you get, sex and porn and different things that you don't really want. This is more a place for us, what I call letting down your hair, because we are all basically, we already know what the nudist philosophy is. And so it's more of a way to network with other, folks and get to know people that are already subscribed to the philosophy.
Okay. We're talking to Linda Weber this morning, all about naturism. She's from California, travels the world. Last time I heard her speak on this, I'll ask her in a moment, they had visited 86 countries and I think all 7 continents. And we're talking about naturism, ANNR, and everything else going on. Linda, do I have the number right? 86 countries, or have there been more since I heard that?
No, 86 is right. And if had the pandemic not hit, there would have been more. But we've got some travel plans in the next couple of years, so we're going to up that number. I like 100. That's a little aggressive. I'm not sure if we're going to get there, but yeah.
Well, you're almost there now. You might as well just go for it.
We're trying. We're trying.
One of the things I heard you say is because you're now a known entity in the world of naturism, is if you announce, we're going to go to whatever country, you get calls from that country or email saying, hey, while you're here, stop and visit us, maybe a naturist resort or whatever. Does that seem to happen fairly often now, the more you keep doing this?
Oh, it is fabulous. The first time that I kind of mentioned I was going to go somewhere, I was going to Australia.
Yeah.
And I was contacted by a number of followers saying, oh, come see me and come meet me at my club. And I thought, wow, this is really great because, we already had our little itinerary. Well, we checked that itinerary and decided to go all naturist on it and met some great people. And Maslin Beach, I can't say enough about it. And we discovered that at the day before we were leaving. And the people on there are fabulous. It's a great expansive beach. And it's probably a good thing that we didn't, because I would have stayed all day. I would have been a lobster driving, flying home. It was such a great place. And the people were so welcoming. And it's just a beautiful country. We've been there several times. But to see it through naturist eyes was really great.
That's great. And the more you're out there a lot now, but each day you're out there a little bit more, and people are going to start inviting you more and more as well. Isn't she absolutely incredible? If you knew her before, you already knew how incredible she is. And if you didn't know, well, now you do. Linda Weber, I am the face of naturism. You can find her, True Blue Nude, on most of the social media platforms. We found her on Twitter, but she's all over the place, as she mentioned during the interview, and does a tremendous amount for the naturist community, clothes-free living for all, encouraging people to try it, encouraging people to stay with it, men and women. She helps everybody. And we will get to part 2 of my interview with the terrific Linda Weber on next week's show, which will be episode 12. We truly enjoy this time together with you. We're glad you joined us. We enjoy your comments. Feel free to email us, nakedforevermore@gmail.com. Find us on Twitter. Twitter's probably the best way. And also our website, nakednudistandnaturists.com. Well, you've been listening to Naked Nudist and Naturist, episode 11 today. We give you a brand new show, every Saturday morning at 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. Continue to join us. Check us out on our website, nakednudistandnaturist.com, Spotify, Google, Amazon/Audible, Apple Podcasts, and also on Twitter. You can write us anywhere, anytime, any place. And we thank you for being with us today. Plan to join us for every single one of our shows here and have your clothes off when you're listening. We have our clothes off when we're broadcasting, enjoying the naturist life.
We celebrate clothes-free living for all. Remember to enjoy being naked and join us again for Naked Nudists and Naturists.
We drop a brand new show every Saturday morning, so come back and join us. Have your clothes off when you do for Naked Nudists and Naturists. Have a great clothes-free day.